Okay, so we will start now. Again, this is going to be the introduction to PHP. This is for ITS 306 Web Development 2. And since we'll be dealing with codes again after for quite some time, we'll be dealing with codes. Please make sure that your phones are on full screen if you're using mobile phones. Make sure naka full screen mo para maklaro or makita niyo taro and the codes that we'll be dealing with today. And then please listen carefully, and if you have any questions or clarification, please share it by the end of the class. Alright, so previously we've learned about Bootstrap, and I just realized as it was um, duration a concern that the presentation that I've or basically the replay of the our previous class about Bootstrap was having problem for some reason dili mo wala ni refresh ang screen dili makita medyo ga-freeze. So later on after this class we're also going to relearn or we're going to discuss how to install Bootstrap once again. But that will be later on after we discuss about intro to PHP. Okay, so PHP, since this is an introduction, like I said, pretty much everything that there is to learn about PHP from the basic, like the variables, declaring variables, how to output hello world on the screen, so on and so forth. So basically, it's the same thing that you've learned in our in your C++ discussion 2 years ago. That's gonna be the same thing that we're going to learn starting today. So PHP, well, that is the PHP stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. This is the logo, and the PHP Hypertext Preprocessor is a programming language that allows web developers to create dynamic content that interacts with databases. PHP is basically used for developing web-based software applications. Okay, so can you give us an example? What do you think, or what example of web-based software applications? Any web-based software application that you know of? Anyone? Anyone care to share? What do you know about web-based software application, or what are examples or any web-based software application that you know? Chrome, but okay. Unsa dito, Mr. Bato? Okay. So that Chrome is a browser, but when you say web-based software application, think of it as a just a software. However, it will be run using a web browser. So that is what you call web-based software application. So it is any application, any software that needs to be run using browser, web browsers. So unlike, for example, nag-open ta og Facebook. Facebook is Netflix. That's correct. Miss Adelaide says Gmail. That's also correct. So basically, these applications will not work without using web browsers, right? So unless if you're going to use it for mobile devices like a Netflix na siya application, you're going to install it directly to the phone, to the Android or iOS. However, for PC, it will only work using browsers. So basically, when we say web-based software applications, these are applications that needs to run using web browsers. Okay, let's say for example Facebook, sakto gingon nila kay na Netflix, Gmail, unsa pa man, YouTube, so on and so forth. Huh? Go ahead, Epifanio. Microsoft Word is not a web-based software application. It's because you are going to run it with its own application. Dili man ta kinahanglan mo open o Google Chrome para makagamit ng Microsoft Word. But if you mean katong Google Docs, I'm not sure if you've heard that, but that is Google Docs is an equivalent to Microsoft Word. So Google Docs can only be accessed on a Chrome or let's say a web browser. So So that's also another web-based software application. So another web-based software applications that we normally use here in Orso. I'm not sure if you can still remember, but when katong first year pa mo, gi-enroll mo using a web-based software application called NORSU Enrollment System. So the NORSU Enrollment System katong responsible for creating your load slip and sending your load slip to your email. It is created or it is a web-based software application. So you're already on your third year. I'm hoping that magka face-to-face class na tayo, and that way you get to experience how to use the web server. I'm sorry, the our NORSO enrollment system. So in the previous years, usually kanang mo encode if nakabantay mo sa first year pa mo, um, kanang ang mo encode sa inyo ha per load slip kay mga estudyante ra po, di ba? Mo ba na case? Was that a case? Estudyante ba ang ga-encode sa inyo? Alright. Okay, because we encourage students, especially those who are on the higher level, like third year or fourth year, third year mostly third year, mo experience sa web-based or I'm sorry sa the NORSO enrollment system because ang fourth year mag OJT naman sila. So usually the third year mo oy pa-encode doon. Of course, tagaan sila allowance, and aside sa allowance yung namadawat is to experience how to work with the NORSO system. So that is also an example of a web-based software application. And PHP is a widely used open source scripting language. So we say widely used, it is being used with the majority of web-based or web developer. Maybe if you're going to ask any web developer that you know, what is PHP or what programming language that they are using, PHP would be the number one answer. So PHP is perhaps for me lang. I haven't done any research, but based on what I know, PHP is the most used web developing scripting language. So murag again, most programmers or the web developers uses PHP as their scripting language. So another maybe pinaka close niya nga kompetensya mo ang Python. But again, PHP is widely used, meaning the entire world, all the web developers in the entire world, most of them are using PHP. And then PHP scripts are executed on the server. Okay, so that means that's the reason why I ask you to install KS Web for those who doesn't have any personal computers or laptop. And then to those who have, I ask you to download XAMPP. XAMPP is a web stack that contains a web server. PHP can only work on a server. It is not pre-installed in our devices, meaning wala siya gi-install daan sa ato ang computer, wala siya gi-install daan sa ato ang cell phones. That's why if we're going to use PHP, we have to install a server because that's the only way we can run PHP scripts. And then PHP is free to download and use. That is correct. To download PHP, again, it's free. It's pakapin na siya kung mo-install tag XAMPP, pakapin na siya kung mo-install tag KS Web. Or if you want ganahan ka complicated na way of using PHP, you can download PHP separately sa ilang website, which is www.php.net. PHP files can contain text, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP code. So the good thing about PHP, that's the reason why it is widely used. It's because it is very versatile. When you say versatile, basically it can be used anywhere, especially for HTML and CSS. So that means our PHP files can still contain HTML codes. So in fact, I should probably say is that PHP will only work fine if we're going to include HTML on it. Because PHP is not for designing the website, it's only to make it work. Again, PHP is to make the website work. PHP will be used to make the website work, and to design the website, we'll be needing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So that's why PHP can work with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And then PHP code is executed on the server and the result is returned to the browser as plain HTML. So I'm not sure if you can still remember back in our very first topic with Web Development 1 last semester, we learned about how the web works, diba? So basically, a request will be made from your browser, and then once the request is has reached to the server, makabanta ang server nga naa siya PHP code, then the server will translate the PHP and return to the browser in a plain HTML form. Because the only way that our web browser can read, or the only perhaps script that our the only language that our browser can read is HTML man. And then PHP files have extension or file extension .php. So if you can remember, using HTML, if you can remember, once again, ito yung file extension sa HTML. Anyone? Okay, .html, that's right. So for CSS, in HTML, we'll be using .php. So it's no longer index.html, but index.php. That it, for us to be able to create a PHP file. So what exactly can PHP do? So why is it widely used man sa the capability of a PHP? PHP can generate dynamic page content. So once again, ang dynamic page content. Unsa lang kini pasabot sa dynamic as far as website goes. So pasabot og dynamic. Can anyone share? That's right. So we say dynamic. It can produce different. It can produce different content depending on the user's preference. So lahi-lahi ang iyahang contents, or from what Ms. Rubetis said, so. So if you can remember, there are two categories of website. We have static, dynamic. All right, let's proceed. Okay, so PHP can create, open, read, write, delete, and close files on a server. So basically, one of its unique functionality is to be able to manage any web contents. So when say manage, you can create new ones, you can open contents, you can read contents, you can write contents, you can delete them, or close files on the server. And then PHP can collect form data. So this is very useful. For example, we are going to create a website that will collect somebody or the user's data. Or let's say, kato na lang, very usual example is Google Form. Diba? Some of our assessment will be, or most of our assessment activities will be done using Google Form. Now, if you have noticed, every time that you're going to enter, let's say, na question, and then na options, diba? You have to select which of these selections would be your answer, and then submit nimo, makita nimo imong score, right? So how giun sa siya sa Google Form. Basically, the Google Form collects all of the data that you've entered for it to be saved to the database. So PHP can also do that. So PHP can be used to collect data from any input fields, something like that, on any form rather. And then PHP can send and receive cookies. When we say cookies, these are katong mga um, text files that we enter on our browser. And then PHP can add, delete, modify data on your database. So this is very important. This is called CRUD, CRUD. That is one of programming techniques in web development. Basically, you can add, meaning you can add something to the database. You can delete any record from the database. You can edit or modify any record to the database and review them. You can retrieve data from your database. So PHP can do that. PHP can be used to control user access. So later on, we'll get to learn how to control user access. So basically, there will be special, for example, mulag intag Facebook, di ba? There na difference kung kita nilagin sa Facebook and katong laing tao nga move view sa tong Facebook, right? So if imuha ang account nga give you, basically you can do anything. You can post, you can like, um, pwede mo ma-like or ma-react, ma-share ang post sa uban. But ang ubang mga tao dili siya kabuhat ana sa imong account because there is a restriction because public viewers cannot access your account. So that is called control user access, meaning na we're going to limit the functionality or the functionality of any user. So there is an admin and there is public users. Also going to learn that. And then PHP can encrypt data. This is very important. PHP can be used to encrypt data. When say encrypt data, taguan niya ang data, especially if that data contains um, contains personal information like password, credit card information, so on and so forth. We can use PHP to add a layer of security to our web application. So basically, our main goal here using PHP is for us to be able to create a web-based software application. So if you can remember, during our C++ na discussion, we use an IDE, right? Integrated Development Environment, which contains compiler. We need a compiler para makita na to ang ato ang code if may work ba siya. In PHP, we'll only be using the web stack, and we'll be using a web browser for us to be able to see whether or not our program will work. So that's our main goal is in this course is we're going to create a web-based software application. So installation. For Windows, download and install XAMPP Web Stack. So another option is WAMP server. It would be totally up to you. So, but I would suggest to use XAMPP because that's what am I going to use in this lesson. And then for Android, download and install KS Web Mobile Web Server. So this is the link. Okay? So for iOS, unfortunately, wala ko ka-search kaya wala magukoy iPhone. Wala ko ka-search og unsay mga web server nga mo work for PHP. Is anybody using iPhones here? Like walay access to Android or Windows? Naray access ang sorry, naay walay access sa Android or Windows? O dili jud kay pang Android ram ni nasa ang example kay wala man koy ma-test ba, wala koy ma kana ganing siguro maka-search ko pero di na ako ma-test is because I don't have any iOS device. But anyway, if the I'm pretty sure everybody has an access man siguro for Windows and Android. So just try to make use of these na lang. If naamoy iPhone pero naamoy Android, sa Android na lang mo pag mag-program. Okay? Alright, so this is just a quick installation guide for XAMPP. So on your PC, okay, basically once you're done installing the XAMPP, for us to use PHP, just open your PC. On your PC, open XAMPP control panel. So this is the XAMPP control panel. Click Start for Apache. So right now, since we'll only be dealing with PHP, we just need to turn on Apache. Sa'yo plugin akong arrow. Kani, sa'yo pa akong arrow, wala siya kadumdum. However, you may also click Start for MySQL, this one. But we'll be talking about it on our future lesson. But for the meantime, today we'll only be concerned about Apache. So we need to click Start, and then we will be ready. We are ready for the activity or creating our first web page. For KS Web, however, please uh, this is how we're going to use it. So of course we need to turn it on, and then under the first thing that you will see is the status. Make sure that KS Web Pro is turned on. That way we'll be able to use the full functionality of the app. And then next, proceed to Light TPD. Make sure it's also enabled. And then proceed to PHP. Slide lang nato nito ya, ana. And then proceed to PHP. Make sure it's also turned on. Okay. Please take note. Later on, we're going to have an activity regarding creating our first PHP program. So, do you have any questions so far with especially katong nagagamit o KS Web? Okay. Next. All right. So next, after we've turned on our web server, so what happens? By the way, what happens if atong start ni? So that means our computer or laptop will serve as a web server. Name mo na siyang web server kung i-turn on nato ang Apache. So same thing goes with KS Web. Once we turn on kaning light TPD and PHP, once we turn that on, our cell phones or our smartphones will turn into a web server. Mahimo na siyang dili lang siya as just mere smartphone, but it will also be a web server. So what happens or what to do next? So now that we set our our devices as the as web servers, the next thing that we're going to do is basically this is just to take note that all of our project must be saved inside the htdocs folder. Usually it is here, c xamp slash htdocs. So in my case, actually it's in D. So i-check na lang ninyo kung asan nyo install. So in my case, it's inside drive D. And then na ako xamp here. And then look for htdocs. So diri nato i-save ang atong project. Diri nato i-save sa casa lang, just like what we did last in the previous semester. We need to save our project inside the htdocs folder para mo-work siya. Alright? And then for KS Web, all projects must be saved inside the htdocs folder as well. So normally it is, in my case, it's in under internal storage slash htdocs. But maybe if for those who are using SD cards on their phone, maybe it will be saved under the SD card storage and then htdocs. So the moment that we're going to install KS Web, automatic siya mo create og htdocs na folder, and that is where we are going to yan ato ibutang ato ang project. Let me try to share it to you. Hold on. Yeah, let me check if okay. Oops, wala. Here. Once we install KS Web, you'll see htdocs. Hold on. Tara. Okay. So all right. So again, there will be an htdocs, and that is where we're going to put all of our projects. Okay. Later on, I will let you check your devices whether or not naamoy yung htdocs. Alright, so let's start with our basic PHP syntax. So again, to start writing our PHP code, we need to turn on a web server. So let's do that now. So, XAMPP. So unsaon gito pag turn on sa atong kuan? For those who will be using XAMPP, what is the first thing that we're going to do? Okay, so we'll open this, the XAMPP control panel, and we will turn on Apache. Okay, so notice that let's wait until the port will display a number just like that. So right now it says 8443. That is our port number. That is the port number. So once we see this and the Apache turned green, that means we're ready. All right. So please make sure to keep it started, meaning our PHP program will only work if naka-on lang ang ato Apache. So later on, we'll also going to start MySQL, but for the meantime, we don't necessarily have to since we're not going to be using HTML. Anyway, let me close that, and then let's start. So asa gyud nato i-save for those who will be using XAMPP, asa nato i-save ang atong project? Okay, okay, alright, that's correct. So in my usually, siguro sa inyong case, you'll install it under C, but in my case, I save it under um, D. It's because I only have if I'm not mistaken, 200 something. Kamay ra kayo ako ang C, so I installed it under drive D, and then here XAMPP, and then htdocs. Alright? So here bay na ning medyo bay na ning mga program nga naa dire. So we'll go. This is where we're going to create our program. So let's start. Let's just say, okay, let me erase this. Um, we'll create a new folder. Let's call it, for the meantime, let's call it sample. Alright? And then we'll start with our very first here. Let's open it up and then we'll start our very first PHP file. So let's call it, I will create a new text document, index, and then what will be the file extension? So ito yung file extension gani? .php. Alright, so instead of using HTML, it will now be PHP. Alright? So let me just edit it using para madali ito. Notepad++. No, we should be using VS Code para mas madali. Hold on. Alright. Again, guys, you can continue using Notepad++. It doesn't really matter. But in my end here, allow me to use Visual Studio Code because mas pas-pas siya para sa klase. So let me look for sample. I'm sorry. Sample. Okay, so we have here our index.php, but it doesn't have anything to it yet. So let's start. Okay. So we're going to create our very first PHP page or base PHP file rather. So a PHP script can be placed anywhere in the document. So basically, it can be placed anywhere inside the document. So if you're going to write an HTML document, you can place it anywhere, basta kay inside the body. And a PHP script starts with open angle bracket, question mark, PHP, and then ends with question mark, and then close angle bracket. So if you can remember in HTML, normally we're going to write a tag, like let's say HTML or body, and then we'll close it with slash. Here, this is how we're going to write a PHP script. We will start with this, and then we will write the PHP code here, and then we will end with question mark, and then uh, close angle bracket. The default file extension for PHP is .php. A file normally contains HTML tags and some PHP scripting code. A PHP statement ends with a semicolon. So same thing with C++. Each statement or each PHP statement must always end with a semicolon. So right now we have here a naatay HTML code. So we have the same thing, the doc type, the HTML language, the head, right? And then we have title. Let's call it my first PHP file or page na lang, web page. Okay. All right, and then we have body, etc. So basically the same basic HTML structure. However, how to write a PHP code inside the HTML file, or not file but structure, we're going to write this PHP, and then tag. Okay, so this would be the opening tag, and this would be the closing tag, and then we can write all of our HTML file in here. Okay. Below we have an example of a simple PHP file with a PHP script that uses a built-in PHP function echo to output the text hello world on a web page. So this is just going to be a very basic PHP file. So we'll use perhaps one of the first functionality that we're going to learn would be to output. So in PHP we will use echo. Unsa lang kay itoy ato unsa itoy code atong gamiton for C++ output, if you can remember. Kung sa C++ unsa lang kay atong gamiton para output. Alright. Okay, C out. Alright. If we can remember, for split, so C++, we're going to use C out. For PHP, we're going to use echo or print. But in this case, we'll use echo. So we'll write echo. And then since we're going to output a text, let's say hello world, we're going to enclose it with double quotation mark. Okay, so same thing. Basically, it's almost similar with C++. The only thing that is going to differ are the syntax that we'll be using, or the codes that we'll be using. But same functionality, same pattern, same rang pattern. So instead of C out, we will write echo, and then the text that we are trying to display should be enclosed with double quotation. So again, we'll only be using double quotation if we're going to display a text, right? Or numbers, something like that. Anyway, let's try that. Let's save it. File, save, and then to open it up, ay wala na akong nabutang sa akong presentation, but how we're going to run, or how are we going to test our program if it worked. All right, so let's open up our browser, and then to access our page, we're going to type in localhost / all right. So by the way, let's take a look what is inside localhost. Now, this is what's gonna happen. Basically, this is the dashboard for XAMPP, but we don't want this, right? We want our website. So after localhost, we will type the folder name. Unsa kay folder name na akong gibutan? Here we wrote sample, diba? Is that correct? Diri ba nato itong gibutan nga itong index.php? Okay, so we will write localhost and then sample and then press next. Alright, so now we will see hello world. Okay, so again, the only way that we can access our web page if we will turn on our server, and then we will access our web page using the directory which is localhost / sample. So maybe siguro na uban nga na problem ani dili mo gana ilang localhost. Well, it's an easy fix. You can fix that on the configurator, or if the localhost will not work, just type in 127.0.0.7 and then sample. It will be the same thing. Alright, so again, if localhost is not going to work, just type in 127.0.0.7, meaning that is home. Or another kuan, mura bag translationers or that is the IP address for localhost. An example. All right. Any questions so far, sir? How about the mobile device using KS5? Okay. So allow me to show you a video that explains para mas dali. Ga record ko gahapon balog na upload to. Hold on. Let me look for that video. Basically, this is a demonstration on how to use KS5. Um, Wala din upload. My apologies. Anyway, let me demonstrate it na lang using my phone. Hold on. I thought I have uploaded it. Alright, so please take note those who will be using mobile device or yeah, those who will be using Android, please take note on how to use KS5. Go ahead, Ms. Ligara. Unsa naman? Okay. Katong link nga ang design ninyo dito mo ga-install. Katubang link ang akong gisan ba dito mo install or sa Google Play Store mo ni-install? Oh, kay kan sa Play Store bayaran man good. Kinahanglan siyang bayaran. So, anyway, sige lang. Na mas mayon tag install. Katong di ba ni send kog link sa GC? Ah, unsa unsa may magawas kung i-click ninyo? Ha? Unsa binagsa ta. Let's do it one at a time. Unsa problema kung i-open ninyo ang link? Unsa day problema kung i-open niyo ang link? Okay? Ah, nanay option nga download anyway usually. Oh, click lang yun ang download anyway. Dili. Oh. Tayo sa ana. Allow me to show it to you kung saan. Ano, wala na sa. Hold on. Oh, na-download anyway. Kana i-click ninyo. Denied. Okay. Ano lagay? Alright, let me check lang ha. Mo ba? Ako na gi-public na bin ako ni. Hold on. Let me fix that real quick. Give access naman ni siya no. Dara daw. Now, okay. Allow me to kuan na lang. Allow me to demonstrate na lang daw be. Drive. Where's my drive? Dira. Wala dyan na-upload tong video diya yo. Wala na akong mag-upload. Okay. Nasa na ako ito gibutang. here. So if you open it up, ay installation mo na dito. So, hold on, let me i-share ko na ako speak as account ba. No ba? Access denied sa uban? O, kinahanglan mo login sa drive para ma-access na mo. Pero gi-public man ako na siya. Oh, for example kani ako naka-download mo siya muna dito sa siya og installer. But anyway, sige lang. Later on, I will let you try to download it again. For example, mhm. For example, if you open it up here sa Google Drive using Chrome, may nakabutang no download available. So, if you're going to download it, download mo siya. Mingon siya diri nga Google Drive has detected issues kay dako ra kuno kaayo. Just click on download anyway. Now, download lang. Bantay mo. Palig na lang kung try kato mga problem nila on, okay? Palig na lang ko og sub. Anyway, um, so basically those who will be using KS Web, this is how you're going to use KS Web. So obviously I've asked you to download it using the link I provided to you, and then shred it. It's also very important. So the first thing that we're going to do is to, of course, open it up. Okay, if this pop-up will display, just click yes and then hit the um, review later. So notice that KS Web Pro must be turned on, and then light TPD should be turned on as well. Actually, if you see na po yung Apache diri at bugat ang Apache, so we'll skip that. We'll only be using light TPD para dili mo hang atong computer or atong cellphone. And then let's proceed to PHP. Make sure it's also turned on. Okay, again, PHP is turned on. Light TPD is also turned on, and of course, the KS Web Pro is also turned on. Okay, notice that on this section, na light TPD and then host 0 and then localhost colon 8080. So that is our local host URL. And then on the right side, it says SD card slash htdocs. So that is where we're going to write our projects. So again, normally if we're going to install KS Web, it will automatically create a folder, htdocs. So let's check that. Let me open up my file manager again. And then here you'll see htdocs. Tara! So the htdocs will automatically be created. So this is where we're going to save all of our projects. So let's do that now. Let's create a new folder. Let's call it sample. Press OK. Okay, so now that we have sample, let's open it up. Diyan na ito ibutang ato ang index.php. So let's go back to our KS Web Pro. So notice again on the local host, host 0, national localhost, please take note of that. We'll be using that later on for us to use it to access our web page. So let's open up our treb edit. Now, this is very important, guys. For treb edit, before we start writing our code, we will need to do this first. Go to menu at the top, go to settings, and then under storage locations, click na to na, and then the workstation, kani, normally it will say, Android slash data, but this time we want to change it to htdocs. Again, we want to change that to htdocs, so just click on the edit and then look for htdocs, kana, and then press and hold to select it. Again, press and hold, kana. Let's check. So our workspace location is currently now under htdocs. Okay, do you have any questions so far? Na nasa plan ka? All right. Again, after we install the KS Web, we need to open our Shrub edit, and then we need to change our workspace location to htdocs. So let's close that. So again, to do so, just press menu at the top, and then settings, and then storage location. Workspace location must be under, will be set to htdocs, just like this. All right. So let's close that. In that way, when we open up the menu or the workspace at the bottom, when we open workspace, it will automatically select htdocs. Kani, i-automatic na niya load ang htdocs. Di na ta maglibog ba? Okay? So notice nga naatay sample. That is the folder that we created. So we will write it down. I will open it up and we'll create new file. Let's call it index.ht. I'm sorry, index.php. Save, and then let's open it up. Okay? And then we're going to write our code. So medyo madugay ko kung isulat na ko tanang code. So let me just copy it. I-copy lang na ako kalit. Kadali lang. Tara. Let me paste it. Basically, it's the same thing that we entered a while ago. And then save it. Just click at the save icon here. And that. Alright, so let's test whether or not it's working. So let's go back to our KS web. Or put it open directly actually here. Okay. So we will write sa lang ganitong nakabutang IP. Uh, uh, localhost data colon 8080 slash, and then our folder name, which is sample. Press go, and then here we'll see hello world. All right, so that's it. So basically every time that we're going to create new PHP file using our phone, we're going to use edit, but all of the PHP files must be in asa gito na to ibutang sa htdocs nga folder. Alright. So every time that we're going to create a website, it must be saved under the htdocs, and then that's it. Make sure that the file extension is PHP. Alright. Do you have any questions so far for those who will be using KS Web? Alright. Okay, that's good. Later on, unfortunately, nayoban nga wala day ka-install sa KS Web. It's okay. I will give you assessment na lang, pero ako na lang, dugayan na lang ang taas-taaso na lang na ako ang deadline para, okay, instead ako mo kung plano kay mag-assessment sa ta, then usa ta mo discuss sa Bootstrap. But since a lot of you are having problems downloading the KS Web, so I guess medyo mausap siya. But later, we'll get to that later on. Alright, go ahead. Ano man? Okay, to close it, to close it, all you need to do is just i-close ka nimo you can turn it off manually. Ito kabantay mo i-open nimo tong KS Web na ay o i-stop nimo enable disable nimo. Let me go back to it para makita na lang. Okay, let me connect my phone again. Okay. So, this is what Mr. Bato said. Kanina, FTP running, KS web service also running during part. And to turn it off, basically all you need to do is din palungon lang nimo ning enable server. Ana lang ato and tanan ano ba? So, however, medyo madugay ka ni if imo ni turn off tanan. Um, Perhaps the best thing that you're going to do is to close everything. Close everything. I-clear nimo ang imong recent activity, And then hold on, let me try again. Okay. And na, close. Dara. Mawala na siya. Kung i-force close ni mo tanan nga ang recent activities. Okay, did I answer your question, Mr. Bato? Okay. Alright, let's go. Go ahead, Sabanal. What do you mean admin? Uh, PHP my admin? Okay. You mean sa MySQL? PHP my admin man daga. Unsa may pasabot nimo? Sa so ako pasabot sa question sa unsa lang man ang question nimo kung ah same thing atong gibuhat dire, di ba? Ha? Okay, so sa exam, same thing. You just have to type localhost. Di ba? I-save nato ang file inside the htdocs. And then, to access our file, just type in localhost. And then, katong folder name, kung sa nga folder yung gibutang. For example, in my case, I'm sorry, sample. Oops. Kana. So, let me try to open up any other H. So, let me see. So, may mga nagawa dito. So, for example, kaning site. Okay, I'm not sure what that is, but let me see. Let's open up another website here. Site 2. Na-close mo na ako o ba na ako? Na-delete naman ko yung ibang database na ako ani na. So kung may lain dito. Murag feeling na ako ang go-work ani kanina lang. Katong akong project sa masteral. Ay, sakto gi-off din ako ang MySQL. Hold on. Ano. So basically it's the same thing with the KS Web. However, basically it's the same thing. We need to install or we need to write the code inside the htdocs, and then to access it, just type localhost at the top and then the folder name, just like this. Ano. So may line there. Did I answer your question, Sabanal? Mo ba yung question? Alright. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. By the way, do you have any questions so far with the PHP code? Again, for us to write PHP code, we need to write it with Alright, my apologies again. For some reason, naputol ko ang connection. Madungog lang ko. My apologies, nahikapan na po na ako ang adapter. Sorry. Alright. Do you have any question again using the basic PHP syntax? Wala na question? Again, to write a PHP syntax, a PHP code, we just have to start it with the opening tag, which is close angle bracket followed by question mark and then PHP. And then we will write our PHP code, and then we will always close it with question mark and then close angle bracket. All right. Comments. So one of the things that we have to learn is comments. Basically, a comment in PHP code is a line that is not executed as a part of the program. Its only purpose is to be read by someone who is looking at the code. So there are many ways on how we're going to write comments. So first is we're going to write it with double slash. So meaning if we're going to start the code using double slash, it will automatically detect that it's a comment, or a hash, just like this. But this will only work for single line comment. However, if we're going to create paragraph comments, we have to start it with a forward slash and then asterisk and then close it with an asterisk and a forward slash. All right. So, and then since this is comment, it will not do anything to the website. Basically, it will just give you an idea, or basically just to guide you, just in case you will be having maybe hundreds or thousands of lines of codes. It's important to set the reminders. Okay, say malimot matagasan na to gibutan. So for example, comment, we can just write a forward slash. Let's say this is a single line comment, and or we can write it using hash. This is another single line comment. Right. So that means since this is single line, if I'm going to proceed to the next nga line, automatic na siya ma-follow. For example, if we're going to write anything here, just like that, dili na siya mo turn into green. Diba? Because this is no longer comment. But if you're going to create comments that will contain multiple lines, well, we can just keep repeating the hash or the forward slash at the beginning. But if you want to do it maybe easier, then we have to start it with forward slash asterisk. For example, this is a multi-line comment. And then to turn it off, star and then forward slash. Just like that. Alright, so again, this doesn't really give anything to the output. It doesn't affect to the output, but it will just give you an idea, perhaps a reminder, just in case mga limot na kataas na magibot ang imong mga codes. So again, if we're going to save it, it will not do anything to our code. Nagpabili na gyapon siya nga hello world because this is just a comment. Okay, variables. Okay, so perhaps we'll just end under variables para we can discuss our Bootstrap concerns later on. So variables are containers for storing information. So in PHP, a variable starts with the dollar sign followed by the name of the variable. So for example, dollar sign text, hello world, dollar sign x is equals to 5, dollar y is equals to 10.5. Right. So by looking at the PHP variables, what do you think are the difference between the variables for PHP and the variables for C++? Anyone? Looking at the variable that we have here. That's it. Ano pa? Sa pailaan? Aside sa dollar sign. Anyone? Try to remember gunsa nato ang mga variables sa C++. Okay. Unsa may pasabot nimo sa declare, Mr. Bato? All right. So if you can remember, so C++, for example, if we're going to create a variable for, let's say, age, di ba? So we will write age. We have to identify what would be the data type. Let's say, since it is age, we'll be dealing with numbers. We will use integer, right? And then we will write the variable name. So let's say age, and then um, we will initiate the value. Let's say 25. All right. So this is how we write variables using C++. But in PHP, notice that let's try to compare. Dollar sign age is equals to 25. Diba? So instead of writing, or we don't necessarily have to declare, or we don't necessarily have to identify the variable. I'm sorry, the data type. So in PHP, we will just write the variable name directly, and then the value if we have to. Okay? So again, notice nga wala na tani declare, wala na tani define of uh, data type. PHP will automatically determine what type of data or what data type you are trying to use depending on the value that you set. So for example, since you set 25, then automatically it will identify it as an integer. Right? If you were going to write, let's say, Julius, oops. So for example, dollar sign name is Julius. So again, I don't necessarily have to write or identify the data type. Once I once ako nang initiate ang value, which is Julius, the PHP will automatically identify this variable as isa lang siguro. Isa siguro nga data type based on what you learned about data types in the previous lessons. Unsa Miss Ligara? That's correct. All right. So since I wrote multiple characters or multiple texts, that means it will be considered as string. Okay. So again, in PHP, we don't necessarily have to identify the variable or the data type rather. The PHP will automatically identify it itself by itself, ano lang, depending on the value that you initialized. So same thing, to write or to declare a variable using PHP, we'll always start it with a dollar sign and then the variable name. Note, when you assign a text value to a variable, always put double quotation around the value, just like this. So, for example, dollar sign text is equals to hello world. Hello world must be enclosed with double quotation. But if it's numerical value um, like um, integer or float, you don't necessarily have to enclose it with anything. So notice the hello world, since this is string, it is enclosed with double quotation, but number 5, 10.5 are numerical values. We don't wala na siya quotation. Wala na siya enclosed with any quotation. Unlike other programming languages, there is no need to identify the data type, just like what I said. All right, so let's take a look at the rules on how do we write PHP variables. Variable can have a short name, just like x and y, or a more descriptive name, let's say age, car name, total underscore volume, etc. So basically, depende na ninyo kung sa kadaghan nga text inyong gamiton for the variable name. However, here are some rules. A variable starts with a dollar sign that's given, followed by the name of the variable. A variable name must start with the letter or the underscore character. Again, variable names, just like with C++, if you can remember, dili ta pwedeng mo start of any other character. Let's say numbers, special symbols, so on and so forth. It should always start with a letter or underscore. Alright? So again, letter or underscore. That's what we're going to start our variable name always. Next, a variable name cannot start with a number. Just like I said, a variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. So alphanumeric, that means we can write alphabet, not letters, and numbers, and underscore. We cannot add like period, dash. We cannot use question mark, exclamation point, or any other characters but we can only use alphabet and numbers and underscore. Kana lang. And then variable names are case sensitive, meaning whatever it is that however it is you wrote the variable when you declare it, it should be the same way you will write it when you use it for your program. So that means variable age with all small letters and variable name age with all capital letters are two different variables. So giyon sa ganin yung pagsulat ang variable name, giyon sa yung pag-declare ang variable name, it should be the same way you will use it, or yeah, it should be the way that you're going to use it for your program as well. So that means bisa a variable age nga gagmayng letter different siya sa variable age nga dagkog letter. So these two are separate or two different variables. So it's very important, just like C++, PHP is also case sensitive. All right. All right, and then let's go back to output. The PHP. Oh, by the way, before we proceed, regarding with the variable, do you have any questions? I'm sorry. Wala. Putol man. Wala lang. Okay, nagets lang. So, I guess we'll stop here. Pero before we proceed, para good na itong magamit na itong variable in our assignment and assessment, we're going to discuss just one more thing, which is um, variable outputting variable. So PHP echo statement is often used to output data to the screen. The following example will show how to output text and a variable. So we'll open up our code again, and then we will use variable. We will declare a variable, and then we will try to display the value of that variable. So again, so we will try. Um, let's say dollar sign name, or let's say text is equals to hello world. All right, and then for us to display the word text, unsa lang gyud atong gamiton? For us to display the value of the variable text, echo. All right, echo, and then variable name. Oops, and then text. All right. So again, this is our variable, and this is the output that will, or this is the code that will display the value of our variable. So we can expect that the output should be this, but we didn't write it directly under our echo. We use variable to do so. So let's save that and let's open up our code again, reload, and it says it still says here hello world. Perhaps let's change that a little bit. So may button today. Oops, sorry. I love programming. Let's save that. Let's reload. And now. Alright, so basically we just used an PHP output to display the value of the variable. And we used the code echo. Alright, so there are other ways on display. There are another way on displaying texts or variable on our screen. That will be using the I'm sorry. Instead of echo, aside from echo, we can use print. Echo and print are more or less the same. They are both used to output data on the screen. Actually, there are very little difference on it, and it doesn't really matter for now since we're just dealing with introduction to PHP. There is a little bit difference to it, but it doesn't really matter in today's topic. But the difference are very small. Echo has no return value, while print has a return value of 1. That's it. But anyway, we'll discuss more of it later on. But again, it will be the same thing whether you'll be using echo or print, it will work just the same. So let's try to replace it. For example, let's say print. Let's say okay. Connect. We'll say that instead of using echo, we use print. Let's reload. Okay, just like that. All right. So you can either use echo, you can either use print. It'll be totally up to you. for the meantime. All right. So, okay, the same thing that we did a while ago. We'll try another example na lang. We'll try another example of displaying variable output. So we'll say text. Okay, I love pizza. That will be a first text, and then let's call it variable text one. Let's add another variable. Let's say text two. Come on. And then let's say we'll also try numbers. Let's say come on, and we'll add another variable y. Let's save it to 4. Let's initialize it with 4. So we have 4 variables. Text 1 says I love pizza. Variable text 2 says I love burgers too. And then we have another variable that contains just number 5. And then we have another variable that just contains um, let's just say 4.10 na lang. That way we have different types. We have different data types. So we know that the first two variables contains string, the third variable contains an integer, the fourth variable contains a float. Alright, so we'll try to output those. So we can use echo, just like what we did a while ago, and then dollar $text one. Okay, let's close that, and then let's print the other word, echo text two, and then let's print the other. Well, we'll use print, not this time. The other variable, let's say x and y. Alright, so basically using this method, we'll be able to display all the values that we set for our variables. However, here's what's going to happen. Na, what happens is that, as you've noticed, even though we gibutan na to siya paubos, di ba? Ang iyang output kapatala ra gyapon siyang horizontally. Why is that? Ngano siguro? Based on your knowledge about programming with C++. Anyone? Okay. So, that's right. So if you're using if you're using someone, if you're using C++, we just have to add the end l, diba? End l or slash n. However, since this is PHP, we can no longer do those. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to write b. Someone said br, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to echo. However, br is an HTML. Do you think it will work if we add br? Of course, it will work. But how we're going to do it? Do we write br here? Sa man? Saan siguro? Alright, it's okay. Para mapaspas ta. Alright. Okay, ano lang. We can also display HTML tags. We can display HTML tags inside PHP. To do so, we're going to enclose them with double quotation. So we know this is a break line. This break line is from HTML, right? Kani? So for us to write an HTML code that says break line, we will enclose it with double quotation. Alright, so we'll copy that. Kana. And then let's save it. Let's reload. Kana. So that means we'll be able to display HTML tags inside PHP PDI. So we already know that we can write PHP inside an HTML, but we can also write HTML inside PHP. How did we do it? We use echo, and then the the HTML codes must be enclosed with double quotation mark, just like what we did. All right. So that we already know PHP will work inside an HTML, and HTML will also work inside PHP. Next, concatenation. All right. To concatenate text or variable values, we need to add a period in between them. So what do you mean by concatenation again? If you can remember what are concatenation? Ha? Ang lang dito? Okay, concatenation means we're going to combine multiple values. It may be string or variables. So basically, they belong to different areas, diba? String are different, variables are different. We can combine them. To combine them, we're just going to include a dot in between them. So why no naman ato siyang i-combine ang our regular text and variables? That is to make our website a little bit easier to read or to use, kumbaga. So right now, how are we going to write it on a sentence? For example, I love pizza, I love burgers too, so on and so forth. How we're going to combine them into a sentence? That's where concatenation comes in. So to do so, again, the rule is we just have to add a period in between them. So let's go back to our code. What happens is, ma-eliminate nanto ang daghan kayong lines of echo or print. Diba? Di na ta kinahanglan mo write og echo all the time. We can just write in one and we can just write it in one go, and then I will be able to display the whole thing. Right? So for example, we want to make it say, okay, mo na itong ganahan niya output. I love pizza. I love burgers too. I can eat 5 of them in under 4.10 seconds. Alright, kana. So we know that our variables contain a love. Variable 1 is I love pizza. Variable text 2, I love burgers too. Variable x is 5. Variable y is 4.10. So we're going to translate this into a working statement that says I love pizza. We know this is our first variable. I love burgers too is our second variable. And then 5 is our third variable, and then variable x. And then 4.10 is y. Diba? Okay, so how do we write it in a concatenation? Can you help me? So we have echo and then text 1 because this is text 1. And then saman, say sunod. Again, we just have to add period down. We just have to add period. So we will go back, we will add a period, and then pero we will use the variable. So we will write variable text 2. All right. And then how do we add I can eat? The word I can eat. So we will add another period, and then since I can eat is not included in our variable, sa itong buhaton, we will add a string, right? And how do we write string? Double quotation. All right. Double quotation, and then we'll say I can eat. Oops. All right. Since 5 is a variable, we have to close our string with double quotation, and then we will add another separator, the dot, and then 5. 5 belongs to a variable, so we'll write the variable name x, Then, sa may sunod, we have 5. Didn't nanata dire sa sunod. Okay, concatenate na sad ta. We'll add double quotation and of them in under and then 4.10. So we'll concatenate it again. Dot, then in dollar $y, and then concatenate again seconds. All right. So let's try to review to make sure. So on the first part, we have text one. So we know text one means I love pizza, and then text variable text two means I love burgers too. All right. So we know that variable x is 5, but we added a string so that we can include I can eat, right? Same thing with the all of them under, and then the variable y, which contains 4.10, and then another string concatenated that contains the word seconds. All right, and then again close it with a semicolon. So notice, just take note that with if we're going to output variable values, we just write the variable name. That's it. However, if we're going to add or we're going to output text, it must be enclosed with double quotation. Okay, so let's save that and then let's reload. Ta-da. It says here, I love pizza. Okay, wala may spaces, so let's add spaces na lang. Here, butang na space, so we're going to concatenate it to, and then we'll just add space. Kana. Reload. Here. It says here, I love pizza, I love burgers too. I can eat 5 of them in under 4.1 seconds. Let's add spaces para dito maglibot. Kana. Alright, so do you have any questions with concatenation? Okay, if none, um, please take note of our assessment activity. So supposedly, I'm going to give you an assessment activity now, and then after 30 minutes, we'll get back. However, I understand that some of you still having problems with installing the KS Web, so it's okay. I'm just going to give it to you right after we end this class, and then I'll give you up until, let's say tonight. Okay, I'll give you up until tonight at 11:59 p.m. to finish it. Siya, taas kayo. Taas kayo kag panahon para mo-install sa KS Web and then write the assignment. I'm sorry, not the assignment, but the assessment activity. And go ahead, Miss Queen. Wala kay lain magamit like kuan Android Miss or di ba PC, mga Windows or laptop? Sige lang. Kuan na sa pangita isag paagi nga ma-installan nimo. Klase bitaw ni sa to. Sani gamiton bitaw natos klase. Ha? Kay sa iOS wala koy kuan siguro na dyan na of course na dyan ay web server for iPhones but wala mo koy matest kay wala mo koy nana wala mo koy mauslan pod para matest. So dili ko ka hatag og exact yun nga server kay as exact application yun nga mo work kay wa ko ka test. So if as much as possible we will use Android and then if naay magamit nga laptop, let's try to utilize the laptops for now. I-clear sa imuhang kuan i-backup sa imuhang files na importante mo gani. Right. Anyway, the assessment would be this. Create a simple PHP web page. It must contain your basic personal information such as your name, address, age, and your course. Use variables for each information and display it using the echo or print function. So it's very easy. You just have to create a variable that contains your basic personal information. You can add more if you'd like to, but I'll only be asking this. And then you can add more if you'd like. And then you can use to display the PHP echo or print function. And then supposedly I will give you 30 minutes to work on this, but again, since some of you still having problems, so just forget about it. We'll end, or I'm going to give it to you, and then perhaps the deadline will be up until tonight at 11:59. Right? And then for your assignment, I will post it on our Google Classroom later on. Pero dili lang kaayo bugat ang assignment is because you're still working on your assignment from last week. Medyo na-delay ko hatag ninyo. So please continue working on that. I will just going to give another assignment for this topic. A very easy one. A very easy one. Don't worry. Okay? Do you have any questions? All right. So for not a problem. For those who doesn't have any question, but kuan kanang naka-install ra ba mo klaro sa Bootstrap? Were you able to install Bootstrap properly? Totoo uban? I know na uban nga experiencing some problems. Okay. All right. So we will just going to quickly discuss how do we use or how to install Bootstrap na lang because I understand nga na problema sa recording last week. So um, I will do it again. This is just very quick quick demonstration how to use Bootstrap. All right. So again, let me close this and then let's open up. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is to download Bootstrap. Download Bootstrap through getbootstrap.com. Medyo hina yung connection ako, so please bear with me. Go ahead. Orientation. Ayun na. Okay na to. For the assessment. Wala pa. Sana. Wala pa mo ka na-enroll? Kaya nga naman. Kaya nga naman. Sige lang. Sige na, first pabito to assessment, second pa assessment. Di na ako mo-open of assessment. It's because it's one man. Kanang mura siya, let's consider assessment as quiz when we're still doing our face-to-face class. Diba? Kung quiz, pag once mahuman na, diba? So, dili siguro mabot og pila ka weeks ang quiz. So, every time that there will be assessment, I will give you guys 24 hours to finish it. But if dili kayo mat-take, then I'm no longer going to open it, to be fair, okay? Sige lang. O sarap ito to, just make sure on our future assessment activities, just like the one that we'll be having today, make sure to take it as soon as possible. Anyway, you'll be given 24 hours to shadow. Okay? Alright. So let's proceed. So to download Bootstrap, just go to getbootstrap.com. And then here, click on the download. And then click download inside or under compile CSS and JS. Okay, make sure to download it. And once you're done, hold on. Medyo hina yung connection, so please bear with me. I'm not sure what's going on. Alright, so once you're done, just open it up. And then extract it to your folder. O asang inyong folder ginaputang. O asa niyo iputang ang inyong files, kumbaga. So, to do so, in my case, let me open up XAMPP for example lang, and then let's go to sample, htdocs, and then sample. Okay, once you've already extracted it, let's open it up. So notice that you'll see bootstrap-5.1.3-dist, right? So I would suggest para dili tayo maglibugan na, let's rename it. Just a suggestion. Let's just say Bootstrap para masayon lang natin siya ma-access. And then inside Bootstrap, you'll see CSS and JS. Diba? So we have CSS and JS. These folders contains all the compiled CSS and JavaScript files. Okay, so how do we connect? The next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to connect the files that we have under CSS, which is bootstrap.css. Actually, there are lots of files inside CSS, but we just have to connect the very first one, the bootstrap.css, to our web pages. Okay, so to do so, for example, let's open index.php. Let's change it. For example, if we're going to connect it on our page, then saan gito na to pag-connect? We will use the link. Okay, Dara. Link rel style sheet href, and then take note of the location. So the location would be under first folder bootstrap, and then css na folder, and then bootstrap.css. That means we will write the first folder, which is bootstrap. Okay, let's erase all of these. Bootstrap slash sa gito sunod css slash bootstrap.css. Diba? Ano? So that's it. We just have to connect this particular CSS file. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sabanel. Natutanan. Dili lang. Okay, notice nga, di ba? That's the reason why we have to rename our first page as index, because ang index na bahala sa katong sa C, ina na ba? So when we write C, it will automatically detect nga we will start in this area, dili ang takinan mo balik diri sa C, ina na. Pinatakinan na because we already set it to index. So meaning the compiler will only read starting the index and beyond. So that's why we just have to write bootstrap. Pero make sure nga gibutang ninyo ang inyong bootstrap inside sa inyong folder nga inyong gitrabahoan, nga inyong giworkan. Alright, your project, kumbaga. That's why the first thing that we did is to copy the bootstrap folder inside our main folder or our website. And then from index, we wrote bootstrap and then CSS and then bootstrap.css. Now, question, sir, nga di nato i-apply ang uban. Actually, you can also do that, but as what as far as I siguro sa akong mga nabalaan, kumbaga, everything that we'll see inside bootstrap.min.css down to pinakalas bootstrap utilities can be found inside the bootstrap CSS. So there's no need to write all of this, I think. We just have to write the bootstrap. We just have to connect the bootstrap.css file. So just like what we did here. So let's save that. So that is for our CSS. Now we can start writing we can start designing our web page from this point and on using the bootstrap CSS, right? So for example, let's add some components to it. So again, to look for the components for bootstrap, just go to docs. Diba? We have down home docs. Let's go to docs, and then we have here components. So we have accordion, alerts, badge, breadcrumb, so on and so forth. But the first thing that we're going to do is to create a layout, which is a container. Yeah. So for example, we'll create the 100% na container. This is what it's going to look like. So to do so, we'll just go back to our code, and then we'll create a division here. So we will putan nato ang butong PHP inside the division. Okay, and then for the div, for our container, we will copy this, diba? So we'll create a class name that is called either of these. So we can write container, container-sm, container.m-md. It would be totally up to you. So we'll try container lang sa kana. Oops. And then pretty much, since this is Bootstrap, you can test whatever you want. So if you see codes inside the Bootstrap website, copy it on your page, try to run it, see how it look like. So for the meantime, let's try with a container. And then we'll try to add a navigation at the top. So we'll say nav. Okay. Ano lang, we will add navigation to do so. Just have to go back to components. I think that navbar here, and then let's try to find a navbar that we want. Hmm. All right, let's just go back to kanina navbar at ang ganahan dito sa taas. For example, if you want this particular navigation bar, then we just have to copy this. Copy that, and then paste it on the at the top of your web page. Here, nav, and then copy it, save. Let's reload. Let's check it out how it looks like now. Connect. All right. Send na. This is the navigation. So notice the container. We're using the container, meaning we're using the entire 100% of the screen. Let's check the other containers as well. Let's see how they look like if we're going to set it to different container. Let's go back to layout, containers, and then let's try the container SM now. So we'll copy that. Let's go back to our code. And instead of dot container, we will write dot container. Sorry, container SM. Containers dash SM. Let's reload. Okay. So this is what a container looks like. The container SMs, meaning small container. Let's check the other ones. How about if we will say container MD? Copy. Let's change that to container MD. Reload. Yes, it's the same thing. Alright, so basically that's it. And then we can add more components. Let's say we will add itong pinakanindot carousel. So a carousel basically it's just a slide. It's just slides of photos, just like this. So we can also add that to our web page. However, it's gonna be a little bit complicated. So to do so, let's copy this. For example, let's paste it. Let's say here below the navigation. So let's call it and then we'll just add photos to our folder. Download the picture. Let me look for photos here. Wallpaper. For example, i-add na to kani, kani, and kani. We'll copy these three photos. Let's paste it under our folder. Let's create a folder here that says images. Then paste it. Am I talking too fast, or are you following? Okay. So again, we are just trying to use all the features that we can find from inside Bootstrap. These are the features that we can use for Bootstrap. So we're trying the carousel. So obviously we cannot just copy the carousel codes and then expect it to work right away. We have to adjust some things like the photos. We have to set it ourselves. So I've downloaded three photos and then we're going to use these photos as the carousel images. So we've already copied the codes. Okay, we copied na to atong codes. So we just have to insert the photos. So notice we have here image search. So we're just going to add a folder name. So images and then one.jpg. For the second photo, we're just going to rename it to images. That is a folder name, and then 2.jpg. And then on the third image src, we're just going to write images slash 3.jpg. All right. So let's save that, and then let's reload. Here. Okay. So we have our navigate. Okay. Here's the thing. So Carousel will require JavaScript para mo work ang iyahang slideshow. So right now it's working. However, it's not displaying, or it's not, wala siya wala siya nag-change ang iyang photo. It's because for us to change the photo, or for our website to change its photo by itself, we need to add JavaScript. Now, we haven't really discussed JavaScript in the past. Perhaps if not at time, we're going to discuss it soon. But here's right now, what we need to know is that for the animation to work, we need to install JavaScript. And if you can remember, going back to our code, going back to Bootstrap, notice nga naapoy folder for JavaScript, right? So Bootstrap, and then we have here JS. So we also have to connect the JavaScript inside in our page for it to work. So right now, bisag kung saan next, dili siya mo next ang photo because JavaScript is wala siya JavaScript that will allow the animation. So we will add the JavaScript. Don't worry, we don't necessarily have to write it ourselves. We just have to use the JavaScript provided by Bootstrap. So how do we do it? Go scroll down at the bottom of your page, pinakaubos. So right before the body ends, we're going to connect our JavaScript. So to do so, oops, sorry about that. We will write this one, script src, and then the location of our JavaScript. So same thing, bootstrap /js/ then let's take a look on sa mga naadiri na atay bootstrap.bundle.js, bootstrap.js, bootstrap.min.js. So for the meantime, let's try to use ang pinakadako. Most of the time kanang pinakadako man ang final nga boot na file. So ang pinakadako nga file here says bootstrap.bundle.js. So I think this is what we want to connect. Let's try. So we want to connect bootstrap.bundle.js. So let's go back to our code. Let's type in bootstrap.bundle.js. So let's try. Let's save that. Let's reload. Let's see. Alright. Okay, nag-next na siya pero wala nakita akong picture. I think there's something wrong with how I images3.jpg. Alright, I think we need to connect the other JavaScript as well. So let's try. Script. And then let's add bootstrap /js/ let's try to add bootstrap.js. Save that. Let's reload. For some reason it's not working. Sakto ba akong gibutang nga pictures? Sakto. PNG ang usa, no? Here. Okay, PNG ang file extension sa usa dito. Thank you for that. So let's change it to PNG. PNG. Save that. Ang number 2 ba ito PNG? Then 3 is JPG. Alright. Okay. Alright. Okay, that's good. Alright, so the carousel is working. Again, at first, wala siya ni-work. It's because we only included the CSS. But for us to make use of the full functionality that includes the animation and all, we need to insert the JavaScript. So actually, I think it will still work without this bootstrap.js. Let's try if kanilang bootstrap.bundle.js. Save that, let's reload. Let's see if it still works. Okay, it still works. All right, so again, we need to connect the bootstrap that says CSS as well as the bootstrap JavaScript. And then to connect the CSS, we just have to write it inside the head. Dili nato connect. And then at the bottom, we inserted the JavaScript sa pinakailaw. Right? So, however, since this is Bootstrap, what if dili ka ganahan? For example, kaning carousel, dako ra kay siya para nako. I want this carousel to be mas mugamay ra siya. So, obviously, we can also, although it's nakabutang na siya sa Bootstrap, we can also change it. We can also set it to however we want. We can modify, kumbaga. So, ganahan ko nga mas mapagamay na ko ng carousel. So, the only thing that I'm going to do is same thing that we've always been doing since last semester. We're going to create a separate secret CSS. All right, we'll call it style.css. And then let's just add that to our web page. So I'm going to create here a CSS file. And I'm going to add okay. So pagamin ako tong bootstrap tong carousel. So let's look for the division that contains the carousel. So I think it's under carousel inner. Kani. So let's try that. Let's call carousel inner. Since it's class, we'll be using that class, and then I'm sorry, carousel inner, and then let's set the height to, let's say, 50 vertical height, view height, meaning it will only use 50% of the screen. Let's save that and let's reload. Let's see if it works. All right, so notice that it only uses half of the screen this time. So basically, although it has already been designed by Bootstrap itself, we can still change it. We can still modify it according to what we want. That's the reason why we have to create a separate CSS file as well. Okay? And then pretty much there is no limit to as to what components you're going to add on your website. Be totally up to you for your previous assignment. So we have here different components. But just in case wala diri imong ganahan, try checking at the top, which is examples. This contains all the features that you will be needing in Bootstrap. So let's say, if I'm not mistaken, we have footers. It's like this. Now, how do we use the examples? Unsa na to ni makuha nato mga codes aning mga example. So at the top na po download example. So just click on download examples again. All right. However, dire medyo makalibog na siya. It's because you need to, although kabalo naman mo kay because you already have basic knowledge with HTML na bitaw. You already know how to write HTML. So you know which part to copy na. Because this time, we're going to copy some parts which is already, we're going to copy the parts which is inside an HTML file. So let's wait until this will finish and then I'll show you what I meant. So actually, daghan diri. For example, we have here a template for product, maybe an e-commerce on the website. We have checkout templates. We have pricing templates. And then we have here this particular kani. You can just copy this if you'd like to. Copy this. Go ahead, Sabanay. Ang unsa ang source code. Unsa may pasabot ng source code? Sa unsa man sa? For example, adding my examples. Okay, here, kani. So, di ba kabantay mo na i-download source code, na i-download examples. Let's check kung sa'yo nakasulod sa source code. Okay? Or actually, it's the same thing. Alright, let's cancel that. So, you just have to download examples, kana. And then, pangitaon nimo unsa atong ganahan kopyahan. For example, footer. Kani, ganahan natong kopyahon kani first one. Kani. We want to get the source code for the first example, which is at the top. Nakita ba ninyo? Kita ba? Alright, so let's open up the downloaded example and let's extract it. Asa na to extract? Sa butang na to. Sa desktop na lang. Desktop na lang. Please allow me to put it in the desktop. This is not a good practice. Binaw nilinog na pod. Alright. Okay, so nanatay files atong desktop, which is this. Kani. So notice when you open it up, you'll see album, RTL, asset, log, so on and so forth. It's the same thing that we can find. I'm sorry, not close. Okay, not close, not close. Sorry, guys. Okay, under example, that's the same thing that we can find here. We have headers, heroes, features, sidebars, footers. That's the same thing that we can find inside the example. However, kani siya gipasunod din siya alphabetically. So for example, we are going to look for footers. Kani, ganahan ta kani pinakauna atong paon. So let's go back to the folder atong gi-download. Look for footers. Kani, all right? And then open up index.html here. Kana, di ba? Mao ni siya. Here's what we're going to do. We'll open that index.html. Kumbaga, ito ni siyang sa to gani. Ito ni siyang check term ana. Kuha ang mga unod. Right, let's open it up using Notepad++ or whatever it is that you want. And then let's just look for the first division that contains the footer. Kopyahan na nato. Dara. Footer. Kani pinakauna nga footer. Since we are dealing with the first one, we want to copy this first one. So obviously, ang pinakauna mo itong kopyahan sa HTML code. Kani, notice we have here a footer. We have another footer here. So the first footer would be the first one. The first footer is what we want, right? So we're going to copy that. And then let's go back to our atong code ginato gaina. And then let's paste it at the bottom. Paste it right there. Let's save that. And that's it. We've already copied the source code. So let's reload. Let's see. Here. Nakatay ato ang dara ang atong footer. So let's check. Let's copy the other one. What about if kani akong ganahan? Kani pinakalas kay murag nindot siya. So I'm going to copy the last footer. So I think that's kani gikan dire abot dire. Let me just copy this. Kana? Let me copy that. Let me paste it here instead. No, we tangtangod lang nato itong division. So ang kopyahan lang nato katulad yung footer ay nag-i-appeal tong division. So again, dire ta kopyahan ra nato ang kani footer. Let's reload. Alright? So we're able to create kuan. We were able to copy, although wala siya picture, kanina siya picture because we didn't really include the picture method. Wala mo siya picture eh. Ano lang. Alright, what if kuan? What about if we're going to copy let's pumalain. Okay, we have different nav bars. So let's kani nga nav bar. Let's change the nav bar with kani. So so may kapila ni nga navbar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ika 9 nga navbar. So let's open up our example folder. Oops, that's not it. Let's go to navbars, and then let's open it up. Pangahuyan na to si navbar.html. And let's count all the navbars. So we want the ninth one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is what we want. So we want to copy this, copy that, and then let's paste it here. So let's replace our navigation. Let's replace it with this. Let's save that. Let's paste. Let's reload. Okay, that. And of course, you can always change it. Right now it says container.xl. If you want to change that to something else, let's say you can write your name. Let's look for the navbar brand. Let's say Juleus. Tanda na ako ang ngalan-ngalan ko na Yes, Juleus. Let's save that. Let's reload. Wala na ako na save. Save. Dili din naman. Oh, sorry ko dapat mo change. Dara. Alright? That's it. So, do you have any questions now? Do you have any more questions with how to use Bootstrap? Alright, so again, kinahanglan mo na yung internet when you use Bootstrap. In that way, you can, kung mo gamit mo og documentations or let's say the components, so you need to have an internet for you to be able to copy the codes that you can find under Bootstrap. And then that's just it. So let's have another example. We can actually copy the entire thing. Now, if you want this, a particular template, an example, then let's just go to singalan ano niya? Carousel. Example carousel, this one. So let's go back to our example folder, and then let's look for carousel. And then let's open up index. I'm sorry. Let's open it up using Notepad++. And then literally just copy everything. So let's say, alright, we're going to copy this from top to bottom. Alright, kuan ra akong kopyahan siguro, di ra tanan. We just want to copy the carousel. We just want to copy this area, for example, kana. So you're going to use your knowledge regarding HTML and try to understand it as nakita ang mga kaning part. Kaninay heading. So I think that's right here, So I'm just going to copy this. Ikan dire abot dire. So okay, I'm going to copy that, paste it on our code. Let's write it at the bottom of the carousel. That's here. Let's paste that. Let's reload here. Although dili siya maayo ang pagka-display, we can always change that. We can always add break line. We can always add BR. Just like that. Alright. So do you have any more questions regarding Bootstrap? Do you think you'll be able to create a website using Bootstrap on your own now? Of course. Dahan. No, we're just able to create a website that usually will take maybe 2 days or 3 days to finish if we didn't use Bootstrap. But we only did it in what? 20 minutes. Any? Alright, so that's a good thing about Bootstrap. Anyway, as part of your assignment last week, you're going to create a web page, a single web page lang, that will contain your personal information. So that includes your photo, anything. Just make it a website that is for yourself, that is about yourself and yourself alone. Okay? So that's going to be your assignment from last semester. I'm going to give you extra time to finish that. And then later on, I'm just going to provide you a very easy assignment for PHP. Okay? Do you have any other questions, guys? Sa asa man sa assignment last? Ha? AM. Sa asa man na? Sa assignment? Okay, okay. Oh, sakto, sakto, sakto. Kay expect man ko nga ready na tanan, nanay naka-install na tanan og KS Web, di ba? I instructed you last night to install KS Web, but apparently, ang uban nag-install sila KS Web from Google Play Store. And sa Play Store, you need to install it kuan. You need to install it. I'm sorry, you need to pay for it. You need to buy it. That's why well, it's not gonna work because we don't want to pay for an application if we can just pwede tamo ngayon ana sa we can just get it for free. But anyway, that's why I set it to 11 a.m. because I'm supposed to give you just 1 minute of it, but it's okay. I'm going to change it to 11:59 today. Today at 11:59 midnight. Karong gabi eh. That will be the deadline. So again, all you need to do is just create a simple PHP web page that contains your basic personal information, address, use the variable for each information, and display it using echo print function. So for in this case, you don't necessarily have to design it. Okay, you just well, it's pwede pod, ganahan mo designan, but again, this is just for PHP purposes. Okay, it's okay. I'm going to change it to 11:59. Ha? Na, na. Tinood, asa ako upload pula wala ang connection. That's okay. I'm going to upload it later on. All right. Do you have any other questions, guys? Before we end, taas sa itong classes. It's okay. That's worth a week, man. That's 1 week worth of lesson, man. All right. Anyway, okay. If nawala na question, please turn on your cameras. And if you do have questions, just share it on sa atong GC. Share it on your set on GC. That way, everybody will be able to read it as well, just in case they share the same questions too. All right. Please turn on the camera and let's get out of here. Let's get out of the Quick class ang gabi.